Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Cannabis in 5. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and today's episode is a big one because GLAS.A.U Brands has officially broken their silence on the federal raid that had the entire cannabis industry talking. We're going to unpack what happened, what the company finally said, and what this means going forward for operators, regulators, and investors. So with that, if you got 5 minutes, let's dig into it. So let's go back to the start. On July 10th, federal agents raided 2 of GLAS.A.U's major cultivation sites in California, one in Ventura County, the other in Santa Barbara. The operation involved ICE, Border Patrol, and multiple agencies. These were armored vehicles, tear gas, and reports of chaos on site. In total, over 360 people were detained. That included 4 U.S. citizens and, according to federal officials, 14 minors. Tragically, one worker fell from a structure during the operation and later died in the hospital. Our condolences to him and his family. No cannabis was seized, no charges were filed, but for weeks, GLAS.A.U stayed quiet. And that silence created a lot of speculation. In the weeks that have since followed, the industry, let's say, was on edge. Why? Well, first, this wasn't just any grower. GLAS.A.U is one of the largest, most respected names in California cannabis. So if they could get raided, what does that mean for everyone else? Second, there were rumors. People in the industry worried about possible labor violations, maybe even child labor, or unlicensed workers slipping through the cracks. Others feared this was part of a broader federal crackdown, especially under the current administration, which has been signaling a tougher stance on immigration and labor enforcement. And without a response from the company, those concerns only grew louder. Which brings us to today, because now we have some answers. Earlier this week, GLAS.A.U Brands issued a detailed press release addressing everything that happened. And with that, here are the key points. The company outlined that the raid was not related to cannabis. It was an immigration enforcement action focused on verifying employment eligibility. Out of the hundreds of workers detained, only 9 were GLAS.A.U employees. The rest were contractors. So there were no criminal charges filed, there was no product seized, and the company says it had no prior knowledge of any underage workers. They also acknowledged the tragic death during the raid and expressed sympathy for the worker's family. In the same release, GLAS.A.U outlined the steps they've taken since the incident. They've strengthened their labor compliance policies, especially around age verification and ID checks. They've also entered into a labor peace agreement with the Teamsters. It's one of the most recognized unions in the country. That move distances them from any lingering criticism around labor practices or fake unions tied to their past contractors. Overall, the message is clear. They're tightening up their operations and they're doing it fast, and they need to. So now let's talk about what this would mean for you, the investor. First, the fundamentals are strong. Despite the noise, GLAS.A.U is financially stable. In Q1 of 2025, they posted $45 million in revenue, up 49% year over year. Gross margins were solid around 45%, and they reported $4.4 million in adjusted EBITDA. They also closed a $15 million senior secured loan earlier this year, giving them extra liquidity heading into the second half of 2025. And even with the disruption, their core facilities do remain operational, so that's important. Let's face it, they were hit hard, but they didn't flinch financially. So outside of that, what does this mean all for the broader industry? Here's the bottom line. GLAS.A.U just gave the cannabis sector a playbook on how to handle a federal raid. Communicate clearly, shore up your labor policies, stay on top of union agreements, and most of all, don't panic. Yes, they were slow to speak publicly, but when they did, the message was professional, measured, and reassuring. For other cannabis operators, especially in California, this is a wake-up call. Labor compliance does indeed matter. Contractor relationships matter. And being licensed under state law doesn't mean you're immune from federal action, especially when it comes to immigration and employment rules. Again, a big wake-up call. So with that, let's give credit where credit is due. GLAS.A.U handled the crisis with structure and calm. They clarified their role in the raid, they took responsibility for tightening their internal systems, communicated the facts without spin, and they stayed focused on long-term operational stability. The response wasn't perfect, but it was mature and strategic, and that's exactly what investors needed to see. But let's face it, let's not sugarcoat this. This situation still carries some risk. There's ongoing investigations both at the state and the federal levels. And while the company says no minors were directly employed, the presence of underage workers on site, contracted or not, is still going to raise a lot of questions. Plus, the optics of this raid, the military-style gear, the presence of federal agents at a licensed cannabis facility could spook investors or invite more scrutiny into the legal market. Let's also factor in, this might not be the last time we see something like this in the industry, though we hope it is. Looking ahead, here's what we'll be watching closely. Will California's Department of Cannabis Control issue any violations? Will the Teamsters partnership become a broader entire industry trend? And will other operators tighten their labor practices before federal agencies come knocking on the door? Also, how does Glasshouse manage its PR moving forward? Because this event is going to stay in the headlines for a while, and how they navigate the next few months could either boost their brand or create vulnerabilities. So with that, here's my final take. The raid was intense, the silence afterward was concerning, but the company's response, it was clear, it was professional, and it shows they're still in control. Glasshouse Brands, as we know, is financially stable, operationally intact, and now publicly proactive. So if you're an investor looking for a litmus test on how a cannabis company can withstand federal pressure, this was it. It's not perfect, but this was it. So that's it for today in our latest Cannabis in 5. Let us know your thoughts on how you think Glasshouse handled this. Was it professional? Was it the right way? Was the messaging right? Leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you like this breakdown, then give this video a like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. Let's get at it for the rest of the day, everyone. In the meantime, enjoy it, and I'll see you next time on our latest Cannabis in 5. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and thanks again for watching.